Was that? Mostly empty, yeah. Well, I noticed like last semester when I started YouTube live streaming, I think the maximum number each week is like between 8 and 15 because I live stream it, right? So students don't necessarily have to come. Yeah. What happened to everyone? Yeah, that's probably a nice day outside. What's your name? Ah, there. Oh, was he your friend? Oh, that's right. On the minute. Okay, I think I'll start. First of all, welcome back for those of you who came back. I hope this class will be a little bit less information overload compared to my first two classes. I'm hoping to take it slower, just so that it soaks in more. A couple of announcements. You may have noticed my announcement on Blackboard. I switched the due date for quizzes. So previously quizzes were due like within the week or something, like either the Friday or the Monday. But basically I've noticed a lot of new students that are coming in between week 2, 3, 4 kind of thing. So I delayed the due date for quizzes till the end of the semester, essentially at midnight. Okay, so that's just to allow new students to give them the opportunity to do quizzes and stuff. For a few of you who haven't gotten Azure or DreamHost working, just make sure you contact greg.smith@georgiancollege.ca to make sure that's up and running. Great job on the labs. I've marked all of the labs this morning. You did a wonderful job. If you want to continue with that YouTube series, the YouTube link I gave you, his channel has like 30 videos on that kind of JavaScript tutorials, and it's really fun stuff, and you learn a lot. Okay, so today's class, I know last week we focused more on JavaScript on the client side, but today's class are going to be more back on the node side, so server side. And so today we're going to focus more on NPM. And as you know, this whole course is about the mean stack, M standing for Mongo, E Express, A for Angular, and N for Node. But before we get to Express, which is the E part of that acronym, we're going to focus on something called Connect, because Connect is built upon the HTTP core module that you played with first day of class. And then Express, in turn, is built upon Connect. Okay, so before you learn about Express, I want you to learn about Connect. Just be an easier transition. Okay, so to do today, we're gonna learn what is NPM. What I had a few questions from you, like why NPM, like what does it do? I don't get it. So I'm gonna show you under the hood what's going on with NPM, as well as the purpose of package.json and all that. Then we're gonna learn about a little bit about Connect, which Express is built upon, and just various tips like debugging and Git and ESLint stuff. So here we go. Any questions so far or comments before I start class? No? Okay. So what's really happening when you say npm install something? Okay. Here's the answer. If you go to this website, npmjs.com, here is where all of the modules that you could ever download through npm are stored. So for example, I can search for even Bootstrap. Bootstrap is on here. I can say npm install Bootstrap, it'll install Bootstrap. Okay. Furthermore, you can even create your own account on here, log in, and upload your own modules. And it'll be available for everyone to download anywhere in the world using npm install your username / your module name kind of thing. It's really cool. Okay. What I'm going to do now to show you what's happening under the hood when you say npm install is I'm going to take you back to something you already know. You know, this is Web 101 fundamentals, nothing new. This is basic stuff. The reason I'm doing this is I'm hoping you'll understand what's happening for npm install, and you'll get it. Okay. So when you make a basic web page like this, right? Actually, let me just do this. So open folder, go into Node. So don't type what I'm typing. I just want you to look. Don't actually type anything. So here we go. I'm going to create an old-fashioned web page that all of you should know by now. So I'm going to say index.html, right? I'm going to create a basic web page. So shift exclamation mark tab in VS Code gives me all of that. And then here under the script tab, what do I want to say? I want to include my index.js file. Oops, let me do that again. Script : tab index.js. So I'm including a file that I have yet to create. So let's create that file, JavaScript file. And in here, all I'm going to say is console log hello from JS. Okay. So when I run it, let's open up in a browser. Where did I put it? I think I put it under node 3D. There it is. So if I look at the console, oops, what did I do? Look at the console, you'll see the message, right? We all know, understand that, simple, easy peasy, get it, right? Cool. Now, if you want to download, use Bootstrap, for example, you go to Bootstrap's webpage or some other library webpage, and you do a similar kind of thing. You download their library and you include it, right? I'm going to use this one here, Moment. If you haven't heard of Moment, Moment is a very popular package within JavaScript world. It basically helps you with displaying time, because JavaScript by default doesn't have the best API for displaying time. So for example, you could say stuff like this: moment, start of, day, from now, and it'll just give you the output of 11 hours ago, which is nice. Okay. Now look at the top here. Question: how do you install this JavaScript library? Well, it looks like you can do it the old-fashioned way, where you can download the JavaScript library, or you got this new stuff, new fandangled stuff, including npm install moment. We'll get to that in a second. For now, we're just going to do the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to download this. I'm going to click on this. Right? You get all of this JavaScript code. Actually, I should right-click and save that. So let me right-click, save that link. Go back to my folder, node. Where did I go? Lesson 3, D, moment. There it is. So if I wanted to use it, I now have to add this script tag to my index page, right? I have to verify that file name. I think I did not download the minified version. I think I downloaded the I just downloaded the regular JS version. Yes, I did. Moment.js is there, so I'll say moment.js as well. Okay. Why is this saying? Oh, that's why. Right, and then I can now use moment in my JavaScript file. So let me just copy that, go in my index.js file, paste that in. So I can now use moment here, and if I run it, it's giving me a comma. I don't know. Anyways, if I run it, refresh, there, 11 hours ago, I can now use moments library. Easy peasy. All of you know this. Simple, right? Good so far? Now, so the good thing is it's easy to understand. The bad thing is it's annoying to manually find and download newest versions of the different libraries you're using, especially in a team environment. So let me give you a little history. Back in around 2009, that's when they began creating things like JavaScript package managers. Around 2013, you may have heard of Bower. That was the most popular package manager. But then in 2015, Bower got superseded by NPM. So now that's the standard. Although it's also useful to note that in 2016, something else called Yarn came out. But Yarn actually uses NPM packages under the hood. So what did I want to say? Okay, so I just wanted to say this. So NPM, when you downloaded Node on your computer a couple of weeks ago, you actually downloaded two things. You actually downloaded Node and you downloaded NPM. NPM was originally designed to be a package manager for Node and not front-end stuff. However, now today, even front-end developers are using NPM, just like you just saw me do download moment. So I'm coming at this whole question of what's happening with NPM install under the hood from a chronologically reverse point of view. So I started off with client side. I downloaded a moment, and hopefully you'll see what's happening. Okay. Now, you can also install moment through NPM. As you saw in Moment's webpage, you got that NPM install moment. Okay. So how do you do that? Let's do that here. Let's open up. Where did I put my thing? I think it was under that. Yeah, that. All right. So npm init. That's the first thing. Npm init. What will this do? This will give you a bunch of questions. We're gonna visit this in a moment. So I'm just gonna press the enter, enter, enter. And after you press through enter, 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 basically what happens is you have a new file in your current directory called package.json. And that looks just like this. Okay. So the purpose of that is to track all your future modules that you will download through npm install. Okay. All right. And and by the way, I went through the Rich Freeman's midterm, which you'll be doing in week 7. And one of the questions is what happens when you do npm init. So this will prompt you several questions in order to make a configuration file called package.json to keep track of all project info. Great. Okay, let's install this moment stuff. Okay. npm install moment, right? That's what you saw on the web page. What just happened? Let's take a look at our directory, dir. Two things happened. What is new in this? What's new? Does anyone remember the previous view? So the previous view is this, and the new view, and my window. We had this. Now you got this. What's new? Yeah, you got a new directory called node modules. So by saying npm install moment or whatever, if it's the first time, it'll actually create a new folder called node modules. Let's investigate inside that. Let's go into that, cd node modules. Let's dir that. Okay, so there's one directory called moment. Let's go into that folder. dir that. Okay. Oh, okay. So you have all this code. Moment.js is there, as well as min, the minified version. So if I go into min, you should see the minified version as well. Okay. So when you say npm install whatever, this downloads the JavaScript code that you would normally download from the old school way, into a folder called node modules. And it updates, additionally, it updates the package.json. So let's take a look at the package.json for a second. So here's the new package.json. Do you see something new? Under dependencies. Under dependencies, when you said npm install moment, it actually added this new entry of moment under dependencies. So when you're creating your Node app, you're always saying npm install connect, npm install express, npm install whatever. It's going to keep on track of this. Okay? Now, the big idea here is when you compare the JavaScript code from Moment's website. So let me open Moment's website again. Let me click on this. So here's their JavaScript code, right? And you compare it to what I downloaded, and I have a link to that here as well. Right, so this is coming from my own local computer that I downloaded. It's under node modules. So I'm going to flip between this tab and this tab. Do you see any difference? Answer, no. That's all you're doing when you're saying npm install whatever. You are downloading their JavaScript code from npm.js website into a node modules folder. That's the big idea. So all of that to say, the same code that you normally did the old school way is the same code that you're doing in the new school way, except it's under node modules. Now the bad thing is, so the good thing is you can use npm to download these JavaScript code, but the bad thing is you're still digging through node modules to make it work. So if I were to go back to my index.html page, here, how would I make this work? I would have to say, well, first you have to go under my node modules, slash whatever, moment slash that. And then that would work. That's a pain point. And that's a pain point only because we're in the client side. We're dealing with browser stuff. However, remember what I said. npm was originally designed for Node, which is server side, not client side. It's actually much easier on the server side. This is all you have to do. You just have to say require, and Node knows where to get it. So here, let me just make the point. If I delete my HTML page, just delete that entirely. Index.js, let's just say all of this. Okay, so now I'm saying require moment, and I should have moment installed in my node modules. So if I just look at it, and it should work if I node it, if I run it through Node. So let me save that. Let me go to my command prompt and say node index.js. It works. Hopefully, you are understanding what npm install does under the hood. What else did I say here? Yeah, so since Node is on the server side, it already has access to your computer's file system, and Node already knows the location of each npm module that you've previously downloaded. So instead of saying something like this convoluted statement, require, blah, 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 node modules, moment, min, instead of saying that, you just say require moment, and Node knows because you already downloaded it through npm install. Cool? Your turn. So open up a brand new folder. I called mine lesson 3D. And I want you to run npm init. We're just going to go through this in more detail. So if you run npm init, I'm just going to explain some of these. So the first thing you'll see is this package name. It's asking you, what do you want to name your Node app? By default, it's going to use your folder name. So that's why it says lesson 3D for me. But you can substitute it with whatever name you want. Okay, if you like the default, just press enter. Great. The next thing you'll see is the version number. So what is your version number? This is where we get into a little bit something called semver. Semantic versioning. You may have noticed that whenever you download something from NPM, it has this kind of versioning number. You have 3 digits. First digit is called the major version. Second digit is called the minor version. And the third digit is the patch version. The only difference, we'll get into this in a second, but the major version, so when it increases, for example, from 2 to 3, that's when you know there's some incompatible changes, and your code will break if you decide to use 3 without fixing some earlier code. So we'll get into that in a second. But just be aware that it uses semantic versioning. The next thing. Enter. Enter. Hey, how come it didn't respond? Control C. Description. So you could say, first node app kind of thing, whatever you want. If you want to leave it blank, you just press enter. Entry point. What is the first JavaScript file that is run? So the entry point or the main file. We're going to use something called currency.js. So that will be our next example. So just type in currency.js for now. So if you, in the future, you want to set up something called unit testing, you can actually put it here. That's just an FYI. We'll press enter for now. As well, if you have a Git repository for this node app already, you can put it here as well. Actually, no. What's going to happen is all of these, I'm going to press enter. All of this information from Git repository to keywords, let's say you decide to actually make a module on your own and you decide to publish it on NPM. So let's take a look at, Bootstrap. Here, so this is what happens. See that by default, there's a link for the GitHub repo for Bootstrap, as well as every other module page looks like this. So whatever you enter in the GitHub, this will appear here. Whatever you enter in the keywords, it'll appear with the keywords field, wherever that is here. So when people are searching for, keyword, whatever keyword they type, that's what you're actually doing here. Enter. License, by default, NPM is designed to be open source. And there are different open source licenses. If this is OK, then say yes. Okay, so again, what did npm init do? This is a midterm question. It created a package.json. By the way, when you look at package.json, what kind of data is this? What kind of format does this remind you of? JSON. Yeah, JSON. And you might notice more and more that a lot of configuration files are in JSON. For example, even in Visual Studio Code, if I go to my settings, open user settings, all this, JSON. So it's becoming the de facto standard to transfer data. So the whole point of npm init is it's just easier to automate this package.json file. I mean, you could, if you wanted to, you could manually type this out, but why would you want to do that when you can just run npm init? Okay. Cool. Any questions so far on that? All right. So let's create a file called currency.js. So let's go into Visual Studio Code. Let me, what folder am I? Yes. Let's create a file called currency.js. So all you're going to do, let's create a variable. So let's create a variable and assign it a numeric value. I think this is too small, right? So we'll just say const amount equals some number. Okay. And you could have said var amount or let amount. I just chose constant amount. We're just going to display it for now. The console log. Let's save that. Go into your command prompt. Type in, how do you run it? Node, what? Currency. All right, no big deal. It prints exactly what I had. Okay. Now, let's try to make that amount appear properly in terms of dollars and cents. Okay. Now, you could go writing your own code to make that happen, but this is where the beauty of npm install whatever. So there's thousands of modules out there in npm land that someone already has coded what you needed, and all you have to do is use it by installing it. So let's do that. There's actually a code. There's actually a module on npm. Let's search for the. I'm just going to show you the page, the web page. So there's something here called accounting, and it helps you make your amounts look like this. So let me magnify this for a second. So here you can put in your number, but if you use their package and say accounting.format money, it'll come out nicely. So let's use that for our amount. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So to install it, what do? How do we install accounting? What do you think? Yeah. Yes. npm install accounting. Notice I'm using the shorthand version. You could say npm install accounting, or faster way is npm I accounting. So, question: what just happened? So this is just a review. What just happened? I installed accounting. What just happened? There's two things that changed. What are they? Midterm question. Go. What? We downloaded a file. Where did it go, though? Where did that file go? Yeah, under node modules. Under node modules. Do a dir. Let's go into node modules just to prove ourselves. Let's go into dir modules. There it is, accounting. Great. What else happened when I said npm install accounting? The second thing that changed. Midterm question. What's the other thing? Yeah, so what's the name of that JSON file? Yes, you have to know. Yes, good. So if I look at package.json, you'll see under the dependencies, accounting has been entered. Okay? So, yeah. Oh, package.lock.json. From what I understand, when 2016 came around and Yarn was invented as a competitor to npm, Yarn turned out to be much faster because they used a lock file, whereas npm didn't. So what do you think npm did? They used the lock file too. Yeah, I don't know exactly what that does, but yeah. Okay. So now let's change our code so that we can use it. So now that we downloaded it, question: how do we use it? What's the first line to use it? Require. Very good. So let's go const accounting. You can call this variable anything, accounting, whatever, equals require counting. Right? So what is this doing? Require. It knows where accounting is because we already downloaded it through npm install. That's why we don't have to say, /node modules or whatever. And we're putting that into here. Means based on the web page. Let's go back to their web page for a second, which I closed already. All you have to do now is use it like this in order to get a nice output. So let's try it. Try it on your own. Console log accounting.format money, I think it was. And let's run it under node. Node currency. You see the nice It even rounded it correctly, 35 cents based on what I have. Does that round to 35 cents? Yes, it does. That's great. So that's a nice way to extend your functionality of your Node app without you having to write code yourself. Cool? Do you see the benefit of Node modules? Very good. Okay. What I wanted to point out is this. Let's go back to our, so this is just an FYI. Whenever you install something under your dependencies, you may come across symbols, weird symbols that look like this. That, or like that. This is what it means. So the question is, what's the difference between the tilde and the caret in npm package.json file? The answer is right here. So let's say you see a tilde 1.0.2. So remember, the first number is a major version. Next one is a minor version. Third one is a patch version. So if you see tilde 1.0.2, it means, yes, please install 1.0.2 or the latest last digit. So it could be 1.0.3 or 1.0.4, 1.0.5, up to 0.9, basically. 1.0.9. That's it. However, if you see this caret figure, that means install the second digit, the latest second digit. So you can say 1.0.2, yes, or 1.1, or 1.2, or kind of thing. Cool? That's just an FYI. Last question, what did I say here? Yeah, okay. Let me just see if there's something here I want to say. Right. Here is another FYI. I know in the first week of class, I asked you to install ESLint. You may have found that sometimes ESLint is very annoying, and you maybe want to get rid of some of the hard and fast rules that it wants you to obey. What you could do is something like this. You could say, put a comment at the very top of your JavaScript file. And let's say, for example, you get annoyed every time ESLint is complaining that, hey, unexpected console statement. You're not supposed to use console, for example, in production code. You can use it in development code, but you're not supposed to actually use it in production. Then you want to turn that off. Okay? So what is this rule called? It's called, as you can see in this statement, that pop-up window, it's called no-console. What you could do is something like this. You could say, let me just remind myself, I could be wrong here. No console off. Yeah, that's it. So you just say ESLint, and so ESLint will pick this commented outline. Even though it's commented, it actually will obey what you say in there. You type in the name of the rule that you want to modify, and you turn it off. And notice there's no more complaints, right? So look at my ESLint, 0 and 0. So 0 is for off. 1 is for if you want it to warn you. So notice here I have a 0 errors, but 1 warning. By default, you probably all have 2, which is give an error. And that's why I have 1 error and 0 warnings. So that's just a real quick way to modify your ESLint rules if you find it a little bit annoying. There is a more permanent way. If you don't like this method, you can actually go into your .eslint.rc file and type this under the rules section, and it'll be permanent for all of your files. Okay. Now in my case, I think I had it under Node. For me, I had it here, ESLint. So it really depends. So it totally depends where you installed ESLint the first time, whether or not you installed ESLint globally or locally. Because I did it globally, which meant that ESLint, when I created it, when I said ESLint --init, it actually created this file in a totally different directory where all the global modules were, which meant that if I wanted ESLint to work on my code right now, I had to actually move this file ESLint into my current directory, kind of thing, just to remember the rules. Yeah. So here's what I'm talking about. Here's the rules. You could say, comma, no console, and off. You could say that too. That's just an FYI. But one thing I should say first, even before you decide to turn off a rule, you should check the docs. So ESLint rules, it pays to see why Airbnb, for example, marked it as a problem. So here's their rule, no console, and it gives some of their philosophy behind the rule. So after reading this, maybe it'll actually change your mind, and you actually want it to stay as an error. Okay, so it pays to see what the documentation is under ESLint. Okay, cool. Any questions so far? So here were some questions again, just to reiterate. So what is NPM? NPM was originally a package manager made specifically for Node.js that can install modules published on npm.js in order to extend your functionality of your Node apps, but has since expanded its role to be used by front-end developers as well. What does command npm init do? Builds you a package.json file, and that file manages dependencies. What does npm install package do? It downloads that into your Node modules folder. And I should have said, it also updates your package.json file as well. Okay. Right. Okay. So check this out. Let's pretend. So here's my my basic Node app, right? Let's pretend that you want to share your Node app with someone. This Node modules has been known as a black hole in terms of weight, in terms of file size. Okay, this Node modules can get really huge. Like, for example, let me just see what happened. So accounting, there's accounting. Accounting, how big is this? It's not so bad. But you may have noticed when installing other modules that it's not just one module that it downloads. Like, for example, if you download Express, npm install Express, you're going to have like hundreds here. So what most people do is they don't transfer the Node modules folder at all. So let me do this file. I'm just going to do this command to delete my Node modules folder. But here's the magic. Because I have the package.json file, which again, let's just look at that file, because it keeps track of all my dependencies, here's the magic. If I just say npm install enter, it goes through all my dependencies and installs it right away. So now I'm back to square one. I can run my Node app. And that's what most developers do, is that they'll download your Node app from GitHub. There will be no Node modules folder, because that's just too much weight. I'll say npm install, and now they're up and running. Okay. For your assignments to hand in to me, I would prefer Node modules not be there, so I can do the same thing. And that's where this file comes in. Who here has heard of .gitignore? Show of hands. Okay, so you all know about it. I don't have to say it. I don't have to explain about it. You're iffy. So .gitignore tells Git, hey Git, when I do a git add, don't actually look at the Node modules folder at all. Don't add that into the repo. Okay. So I'm just going to create a quick gitignore file. Let's echo. Let's see. If I say echo node modules, I think it'll just echo that thing right back to me. But if I say echo node modules, but output it into a .gitignore file, there I have a new gitignore file, and if I look inside it, it should be node modules. So now if I do a git init and git add, it doesn't download the accounting. Right? If I didn't do that, you would see accounting, node modules accounting here, kind of thing. Okay. Yeah, so remember to create a git ignore file so that when you upload it to GitHub, for example, you're not wasting time uploading node modules. FYI, a git commit is a snapshot of a git repository at a specific time. FYI, Git is a distributed source control and version management system, if you didn't already know. Okay? Some of you have asked, how do you integrate Git with VS Code? So this is just an FYI. Let's try committing our currency JS app. Okay, I think I already started off that process here. Yeah, so I already said git init. I already said git add. I can say git commit, for example. Commit. And now comes the repository. So obviously I would have to create a repository. So I'd have to go to GitHub, create a repository, let currency. And because I already did these first three commands of init, add, and commit, I just have to copy and paste these two. But I'm still using command prompt. Hey, how come it didn't? I'm not sure why. I won't push it just yet. So because I did those first 4 lines, now it's set. So within here, within VS Code, I believe it should be good to go. So let me make a change. I'm going to say, I don't know, change the number. Good. There. See? You see what happened? My Git icon, just notice the change. So it's asking me, hey, you got to change here. And if I want to Git add it, I'll just say plus, which stages the changes. So if I click on plus, that's saying the same thing as git add that, all of that. If I want to git commit, that's here, the check mark. Notice the tooltip there is commit. But before I commit, I can say a message, edited currency.js. Commit. To push it, ... and push. Now, because this is the first time, I think it might complain. Yeah, for the first time it says, I don't know, but just say OK, and it'll actually push it to where you previously said. And that's it. So if I go to my GitHub page now, so here's my GitHub page. If I refresh, it should be there. There it is, currency.js. And notice there's no node modules, right? Because we said git ignore node modules. Cool. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is you could say, for example, Control-Shift-P. If you don't want the command line way, you could say Control-Shift-P. You can say anything git will be here, and git unless. So you could select this command. It'll do a git init for you. Then once it's init, then you just do the same thing. You add, you commit. But now this is where my lack of knowledge comes in. I still go back to the command line in order to type in this line. I haven't found a way around that. So I still have to type this line, and then I come back here and push. If anyone knows differently, let me know. Again, that's just an FYI. Any questions so far? Slide 14. Okay. So I'm going to introduce you to something called exports. Okay, so we're going to create our own module, in essence. So what is exports? This object is contained in each module and allows you to expose pieces of your code whenever this module is required by something else. So in Node, there's something called CommonJS, which is the name of this whole module system. So CommonJS is the module implementation, which allows you to require different modules. And the important thing to note is that each module, whenever you write a module, it actually has an isolated scope. So it doesn't affect, even if you have the same variable name as another module variable name, it won't affect. The author of this module can expose any functionality through the exports object. Okay, great. Let's do this. So go to your files, and this time we'll create a new file. Let's close this up. Let's create a new file. called hello.js. Right, so hello.js, and we're just going to make it very basic. We are going to say const message equals hello world. Okay, and now we're going to use the exports thing. So I'm going to say exports dot. Now, let me a word about this. So this export, where does this exports live? This word exports is a global object that Node just remembers throughout everything, and you can use it. Okay. So exports dot say hello. Remember how last week I said when it came to JavaScript objects, don't type this. I'm just reminding you what I said before. So here's a JavaScript object, you know. Remember last week I talked about JavaScript objects. JavaScript objects can hold not only simple things, but it can hold more complex things, like maybe an array of different objects, for example. You can do that. I forgot to mention this. Objects can also hold functions. That's what makes it really dynamic. So what's happening here when you say exports.say hello? They're actually creating our own function and sticking it into this export objects. Okay, so what am I saying here? I'm going to actually do a little survey. Actually, no, I'll just do it this way. So I'm using the new ES6 method of creating a function. This line, what I just typed, is equivalent to this. I just said function. Oh, but don't type what I'm typing here. I just remind myself. So this part right here is equivalent to this right here. That's all it is. So this is the new ES6 way of writing functions. So that's all that is. So we just created a module in essence. Okay, this could be the same kind of module that you see in the npm.js website that someone could download through npm install, and then they'd say require your module, and then they could use it. All right. One thing before I move on, I just wanted to say this. In JavaScript land, variable names that you create have to start with either an alphanumeric character, or it can start with an underscore, or it can start with a $sign. Okay. It can't start with a number. It can't have hyphens. No. Also, in JavaScript land, whatever variable name you choose, it's case sensitive. Okay. You should also use semicolons for your JavaScript, just like Java, and it ignores white space between statements. In fact, back in week 2 last week, when I said to you how JavaScript was invented by 3 different languages, Java, Scheme, and something else, the only thing it inherited from Java is the syntax. So this is already familiar to you. Okay, so we created this file. Let's actually require it in another file and use it. So let's create another file, new file. Let's call it calling hello.js. So how do we use that? We say const whatever variable name you want, require. Now let me perfectly introduce an error. I'm going to say hello.js, or I could just say hello, whatever. Notice how my right squiggly line is saying, hey, I can't, what is it saying here? It maybe converts to, oh, I thought it would say that it can't find it. This does not work. Because we created our own module, you have to actually give it, oh, sorry. There it is. That's the error message I was looking for. I forgot the quotes. Here, it's saying unable to resolve path. Hello.js. So look, it's trying to look for this inside your node modules folder. So that's the first thing it checks. So the hierarchy is whenever you say require whatever, the first thing Node looks for is whatever's in that node modules folder. So in this case, because we created it on our own, we have to give it a relative path, /. Now we're going to call the public, i.e. exports function in hello.js. So, question, how do I call that function? You tell me. So here's our hello.js, exporting this. What do you think? How do I call it? Actually, you know what? I'll help you out. Let's try this. Console log hello. So I'm going to console log whatever I just required, just to see what's inside it. I'm curious. See what happens. Node calling hello. It's an object with a function called say hello. Okay, how do I call it? What do you think? Yeah, I'll give you another hint. Again, this is an object. My question to you is, how do you normally call something in that object? So let's say you assign this whole object to a variable called a. How would you call this function to run it? Yeah, a dot say hello. That's essentially what we just did here. We said const hello equals that. So to run say hello, it's hello dot say hello. But you want to call it, so you want to put the brackets in there. Let's see if that works. Node calling hello world. That's exactly what. Cool. So we just created our own module, just like you would download from npm. I took the extra step to prove this point even further. I logged into my own npm account, and I uploaded the same exact module in my own account, which you can now download on your computer. I will show you. npm.js, I called it hello to npm, and it's right here. That's me, AV Coder, hello to npm. If you click on it, you'll see I didn't put a lot of information, but it's here, which means you can download it right now on your computer. So, oh, by the way, FYI, whenever you do upload your own modules into npm, in reality, the web address goes here, unpackage.com. Goes to unpackage.com. So unpackage.com is actually a CDN website. So anything you publish on npm actually goes uploaded to a CDN, which means it's very fast. So here, there's nothing different than what I just said before. This is the code. It's now in npm. I want you to do this. Download my module. So try this. Try typing in npm install. This is where it gets a little bit weird. You have to say @avcoder, which is my username, hello to npm. Okay. If I had chosen a more unique name like hello 235z67, I wouldn't have to put this avcoder, and you could actually just say npm install hello 2653. But because this is a very common name, that's why it's like that. So go ahead, install that. Did it install? Yes, it installed. Okay, let's use it. How do you use it? Let's go back to our calling hello. So forget this. Forget the one we just created. What will it now be? It'll be this. So if I run this by saying node calling, will it work? Let's try it out. Code calling hello. It worked. Worked. Cool. Mind blown. You can create your own node modules, upload it yourself, and anyone in the world can use it. Yeah. Let me just think if I should move on to something else or break time. Let me just give me a second while I see what's ahead. No, I think it's a good time to break. Let me just see one slide ahead of me. What's the next slide here? Right, yeah, okay, so it's at the top of the hour. Let's take a 15-minute break and come back after 15 minutes. Ignore. Let's say when you get stuff, do you do it, well, it doesn't matter if it's command line or not, but when you get a folder, it'll look at everything that's in that folder, files and directories, and it'll add it to the repository, right? But what if there are some files and folders you don't want to add in the repository? Maybe there's a file of passwords. You don't want Git to add that. So the solution is .gitignore is a recognized file name where if you create a file called .gitignore, any file or folder you type will be ignored when you say git add. Okay. You better? That's it. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, that's your name. Cool. All right, you're in India or something? Yeah. Okay, so this is your first day back. Very good. Okay.
But I downloaded it.
Yeah. So just hand in the lab. Even though
I already handed it.
oh, did you already? Yeah. Okay, okay. I must have marked it.
Yeah, it's
oh, okay, nice. Is there anything else you need to do?
I have finished.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah.
Very good. Welcome. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Вообще-то второй день.
Okay, remember how we said
I can do it.
that the whole thing
Right now?
system was
Okay.
acquire only
Ну да, я знаю, я начала.
just as in HTML.
Я бы просто
Browser-
с этим
that's not the server side. So browsers don't recognize the browsers when they look at that. It's required. No, they know what required.
Yes, well, and then you try that.
Well, if you wanted, like, I don't know what is
Like a typing.
А у тебя разный секретарь?
They give a demo.
А, поставим. Окей. Были вчера в Казани, мы с ними гуляли.
What you could do is instead of saying required member HTML, you could make require
Я бы пожаловалась, этого на
on
него.
the server side. You know what? Go to YouTube. See if there's anyone that's supposed to reaction.
Так, забей. Да. Я поняла. Вроде наоборот. Называют
So
другие.
you use the NPM and do like whatever resume.
Just know that
Да, я типа только сама люблю. Я вот
some
с кем-то, это может быть, если только где-то
packages that you install,
а вот так просто.
somewhere in the browsers.
It's not my.
It's up to you. It's up to you to know. Now there, what's happening lately is that when you download something, browser side, yeah, ends up happening is front-end developers use something
И не был,
called
короче.
to actually use types or parse them. These are called modules.
Yes. Еще раз.
But basically,
Надо что-нибудь помочь.
Same breakdown.
oh, I don't know. I'm not familiar.
Я сразу вспоминаю королеву Льва. Все,
But
что ты
basically,
видишь, это
web
не твои владения.
does for the client side what requires for the server side.
Вау.
I was not right.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you run your module, there's like a magic undefined that pops up every time.
Oh, yeah.
Is that because you are trying to console log a function that already has a console log statement in it?
No, I was just thinking about that. I was coming up the stairs. So
Yeah.
what's happening is the reason it's coming undefined is because I'm not returning a value. It's expecting a return value because I'm calling a function. A function is supposed to return a value. But if you look at my code, I never actually return a value. I just say console log. So what I could say is this. But to get rid of that undefined, I could say return.
Saying anything though.
I think, hold on, I don't want to say that. I want to say, not there. I want to say, not there. Sorry, I want to say it here. Instead of console.log message, I think I could say, let's see what happens if I say return message. Yeah, because the function supposedly, oh, I don't want to use the word return because I'm using ES6. So if I just say message, then if I say node calling hello, oh, it's still undefined. Oh, then I don't know.
Where's the left command?
Just brush it under the rug. You never saw it.
Mine's not saying undefined.
Maybe it's just a configuration thing. I don't know.
And this city called So it's
okay.
just for the world.
Yeah, cool.
I know.
Okay. Few more minutes.
Ой, thank you. Кушай, кушай. Я покушаю.
Я просто открыл глаза, что
Ну, возьмите. Ну, пожалуйста. Я думала, это коробка сложно. Пока мы не дошли до этого. Это что? Набор палочек. Это сделано так. Ты прям вообще сделал такой консультант.
Okay. All right, so we're going to continue. Just a quick couple of questions that I got that I'll answer right now. So one of you have already tried to use the word require inside an HTML file. And this is what I was saying about this slide here. This slide. So when you install something like Moment, you can't use the word require in the client side, in the browser side, because the browser, like Chrome, does not understand the word require. See, that's why it's harder on the client side, but it's much easier on the server side. So that's why in the server side, all you have to just say is require, and Node knows what that means. But if you decide to say in your HTML file, a script tag and require something, it's going to be an error because browsers do not understand the word require. And so what's happening behind the scenes is the TC39 committee has created something to help with that process. They're trying to standardize an import method on the browser side, but as of right now, it's still underworks. So the only solution right now is to use module bundlers called Webpack or Parcel, which is more advanced client-side JavaScript stuff. But I don't think we're going to get into that for this one. I think maybe later after midterm we might use something else, or we might use Webpack. I'm not sure. Another question, in case some of you are wondering, in my VS Code, in my terminal, when I say, when I get to my terminal, I'm actually using not the DOS prompt, but Linux commands in here. And how I did that, FYI, if I say Control-Shift-P to get this, and I say default shell, if I choose this option, I can actually select my git bash, which allows me to get this. So if you already installed Git, then you should already have git bash. And that will allow you to have the Linux command within VS Code as well. Okay. All right. So what I said before, the E in Express is what we're going to learn next week. But before we get there, it's important to know about Connect because Express is built on Connect. So we are going back, just if you remember our first day of class where we created our own server and played with that, we're going to go back to that, except using Connect. Okay. All right, so let's open up a new. Actually, just open up your command prompt. You could have it in the same folder if you want. That's fine. And we are going to say npm install connect. Right. So what does this do? Again, this will install the Connect code into your node modules folder, and it adjusts your package.json file. So if I look at my package.json file, I now have, wow, I have accounting, I have Connect, and my hello Tubian. So it's keeping track of everything. That's great. Okay, let's create a new file called server, server.js, and we are going to use the Connect. So how do you use the Connect? What do you say? You say const, and then some variable name, we'll call it Connect. And yes, this is calling it the same name as what you require is usually what you see. So it usually uses the same name. Right? The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to instantiate a new Connect object. And to do that, we're going to say const app. So this is new. You've never seen this before. With on the first day of class, you never did something like this with create server. And there's a reason why. You'll see in a second. Okay. And we're going to listen on port 3000. And we'll say console log server running at port 3000. So let's run this in Node and see what we get. So let's open up it. I'm going to use my my Linux thing here. If I say node server run, so I see the console log statement, server running at port 3000. So how can I find out? How can I view the results of that? You can a couple ways. You can go into your folder, or sorry, your browser, and let's type in localhost 3000, enter, and what do you get? Everyone get this message? Connect or cannot get root. What does that mean? What's happened? What's happening? Any guesses? What's happening? Okay, question. Is my code working? Yes or no? Show of hands, who thinks my code is working? You would be right. My code is working. So why am I getting this cannot get root? Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, right. So we haven't specified what to do with the get. Okay, good. Let's set up a function that will take care of that. So here's something new I haven't seen before. So just above the app listen code, we're going to say app.use. Oops, app.use. We're going to specify what happens when a user reaches root. So here we are saying when the user reaches the root, like I could have said, about us or something like that, but just for now, we're just going to say when it reaches the root, then we're going to run a function called hello. Okay. So let's define that function. Const hello equals. And similar to how we had request response for the create server in week 1, we have the same kind of thing here. However, I am going to introduce a new parameter called next. And we'll get into that later, but I think it pays for you to just get used to that. And then we'll say response end, and then inside then we'll say hello world. So let's question. How do I see my changes? And if I go to my browser and refresh, am I actually seeing my changes? No. What do I do have to do first? I have to restart this one. So I have to Control C to break out of it. So now it's stopped. And let's do it again. Node server. Okay, now it's running. Let's go back to our browser. Refresh. Works. Cool. A couple of words. This style. Actually, no, I'll mention that a little bit later. Let's try something else. Let's try this. Change the word end from res.end. Change that to res.write. It's a valid command, but I want you to see the difference. So let's type that in, save it. Let's break out of our server. So Control C. Let's run it again. So node server. Running. What's the difference when you refresh? There should be something a little bit different in terms of what's happening under the hood. It's never ending. As you can see, it's loading, because the HTTP protocol is when you send something to a web page, you have to end it. So that's why one way to do that is to say, okay, let me because I'm going to write another line, I need the squiggly brackets. And I'm going to say here res.end. There. So this should work. Control C out of that. Node server. Let's see if I still get the loading thing. Nope, no more loading thing. So that's just a useful piece of information to know. Question, yeah. Yeah, okay. We're going to get into that maybe next week. But to quickly answer your question, maybe you want to pass to the next function. Like you don't want necessarily to do anything here, but you still want to carry on. So you call next, and that'll go to the next function here. So maybe this is like an authentication piece. And it'll run that. I will get into that later. So basically what's going to happen is next week when we start Express, you're going to start seeing a bunch of similar kind of functions like this, all one after another. And maybe the first one you don't want it to do anything, so you just call the next one. So that it'll go to the next one right away, kind of thing. But we'll get into that later. Let's try this. What happens if you say localhost 3000 / something else? You get the same thing. That's a problem. So my challenge to you is, based on what you know now, and based on what I told you, how you could just say, like that, slash about. I want you to right now, I'll give you 5 minutes to try to create a hello. That it'll go here, hello, and goodbye. So that if you go to that localhost 3000 / goodbye, it'll say goodbye. Okay, so you have 5 minutes to do that. You're going to use the same technique here. Right? So I'll start you off with the hello. So the hello is really easy. You just say /hello, and because everything else is the same, it should work. So now if I run it, let me break out of it. Node server, run. Okay, so now because the only difference is this, /hello. So which means if I go to regular nothing, localhost 3000, I still get the cannot get. But if I go to /hello, I should get the hello world. So do the same thing for goodbye. Show of hands, who's finished already? Cool. Needs more time? Show of hands, who needs more time? Anyone? We're good? Okay, fine. So let me just continue. So you may have written a very similar function. I'm just going to throw in a bone here just to make you guys aware. So what I did here is I did something a little bit different. So instead of creating a function called goodbye and referring to that, I just replaced that entirely with the actual function. This is called an anonymous function because it has no name, right? What do I want to say about that? Yeah, so if you ever see something like this and the question on the midterm says, what style of code is this? It's an anonymous function. That's it. All right. But it's the same thing as what we had before. Okay, so it's as if, it's as if I just copied this and just put it into hello. Same thing. Right? Now, so here's when I run it, I have this, goodbye. And you may be wondering, how did I get that emoji icon? Talk to me later. There's an extension here called emoji code, which I installed, but it's not exactly not exactly elegant. I had to do a couple of tricks to get it. Also, I wanted to mention also that you can also put in HTML tags. Here. So if I didn't have that HTML tag, and I took that H1 tag out, and I broke out of it, and ran server again, and refresh, you're actually going to see just plain text. All right, cool. Now, if I go to the root, as I showed you before, if I just go to localhost 3000, it says just cannot get, or if I just go to something else that I haven't defined, something else, get kind of error. So, how to put some kind of message there, like maybe it's almost like a 404 thing. Here's one thing you could do. Let's create a function called fallback, okay? And we'll do the same thing here. Actually, I'm just going to copy the hello world thing and just paste it here. And I'm just going to change hello into fallback. And I'm going to say, oops, I haven't coded this root yet. So I created the function. How do I use it? I'm gonna purposely put it in the wrong place for now. I'm gonna say app.use fallback. So here, I'm not even defining a root. I'm just saying use fallback. Let's see what happens if I break my server and run it. Okay, let's go here. All right, so that's kind of working. Oops, so I went to slash something else and it gave the right thing. If I go to the root, localhost 3000, okay, that's what I expected too. If I go to hello, however, oh, I didn't expect that. What's the solution? Yeah. Yeah, so let's move it down. So in VS Code, if you press the Alt key and then arrow down, 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 it just moves it down. There it is. So now if I break my code and run server, I should get my hello back, and I do. Slash hello gives me hello world. I should have my goodbye. I do. And if I go to something else I haven't defined, I get that. That's proper behavior. Okay. I'm just going to throw in another bone. This is just an FYI. Let's say I had up here some kind of object. Let's call it O. A is 1, B is true, C is high. Okay. So this is just an FYI. Let's say I have an object and I want to spit that object out. In a sense, I'm creating my own API. What you could do is something like this. So let's create a new one. App.use. You don't have to type this in. This is just a nice to know. So if the user goes to slash API, it's going to run a function called API, which I have yet to define. Const API equals, you know what, I'll just copy this and change it. And the only difference here is that here, I'm going to pass in the object, but it's not going to work because it needs to be a string. So you could say JSON.stringify and pass in the object. Let's see what that does. Control C, node server. Here, oops, I accidentally opened Firefox. Let's close Firefox. Go to my Chrome. So now if I go to my API, I get the JSON. And the only reason why I have this fancy stuff in the background is because in my extensions, I downloaded something called JSON Viewer, which allows me to see JSON data in this fancy way. Okay. So I want you to imagine the power that you have, that you can now create your own APIs. Just like how when I asked you in week 1 to go to api.github.com/your-users/avcoder and you got all of this JSON, you now have the power to do the same thing. Let's see. So just a review of week 1, where we used the core module HTTP, and today, where we require connect. What's the major difference? So both of them, yeah. Anyone? Oh, yeah, Luke. Oh, you have to create. You actually have to say create server. Yeah. So connect kind of created it for you. Yeah. What's another major thing, difference? Yeah, that's the most important thing. We added routes. So here we can say app.use /about/ something, whatever. Whereas here we didn't have that ability. So Connect is built on top of HTTP. Express is built on top of Connect. So Express will even have more features than Connect has. But this routing thing is huge. That's what when we reach Express, you're going to see so much of this, you're going to get sick of it. Because it's going to how am I going to keep track of all the different routes? But yeah. What else? Question. This is just an FYI question, perhaps on a midterm quiz, for example. What does 200 mean? Status code means what? Okay, good. Next question. You'll notice, what do both HTTP and Connect, what's the method name used to begin accepting connections? Listen, correct. And the next, I'm helping you out here. What parameters does create server use? Request and response. All right, you're prepared for the midterm. Okay. All right, so by now, you're probably getting sick and tired of having to break out of the node server each and every time. Hence, we are going to install a new package globally called NodeMon. This will allow you to not have to control C out of your node server. In fact, it'll detect anytime you make a change in your code. Every time you say control S to save, it'll detect that change and it'll automatically restart your server. So you never have to control C ever again. Cool? Let's do that. So open up a command prompt and type in npm install -g nodemon. Now I already installed it, so I'm not going to run it. But that is what you type to install nodemon. So once you've typed in this command, you now have, because we installed it globally, you can access that command anywhere. So in the past, you've typed node server, right? Now you can type nodemon server. And it does the same thing except this. So I said nodemon servers. Okay, let's just make sure it's working. Localhost 3000, right? Oh, okay. Let's make a change. So in my server, for my hello world, I'll just say hi world. I'm going to press Control S to save. It's saved. Now, as soon as I Control S, look at the what happened here. It actually restarted, which means if I just refresh, it changed. No longer do I have to Control C do that pain point. Another useful tool in JavaScript land in Node to help you develop faster and more efficiently. Okay. Also, if I decide to, it kind of helps you with bugs as well. So if I said, if I misspelled const, whatever, I say save, and I looked at my stuff here. Oh, hold on. Did I save it properly? Unasked. Should have. Oh, shoot. It should have said, hey, I don't recognize what you just did. I'm not sure what happened there. Save. That's weird. I was expecting it to actually say, hey, there's something wrong there. Okay, anyways. Carry on. Okay, so the next thing. No, I didn't want that yet. Oh, question, yeah. They gave you an error? Okay, good. So I'm not sure what happened with mine. Yeah. Okay. Let me try it again. Nodemon server started. And if I misspell that, save. Oh, there. That's what I expected. Unexpected identifier. No, it's pointing to this, but it's really not this. It's actually this. Yeah, so I'm not sure what happened the first time around. Anyways, next thing I want to get into real quick is, let's say, I'll just say it right now. It's npm start. So if you look at your package JSON for a second, under the script section, it only has one script, test. Watch what happens if I just say npm test. it actually will run this command, echo whatever, and as you can see here, there it is. What most developers do is they'll add another entry in here under scripts called start, so that when you say npm start, it'll actually start your Node app. Let's do that right now. So if you open up your package.json file, so under scripts, just enter, and it doesn't matter the order. So it could be on just under scripts or after test. You could say start in quotes, colon. Now don't type what I'm about to type, but I'm just doing this to prove a point. So whatever you type in here is whatever command you enter. So because I'm using the Linux shell, I'll just type in ls. So ls, again, normally does the equivalent of a dir. But if now, because I saved that, oh, I didn't save it, I have to put a comma there. Okay. So here I can say npm start, and they'll do an ls. So that's all you're really doing. Okay. So what do you think I should type in here to start our Node app? Node mon, yeah, server.js. There we go. So save that. So now I can say npm start, enter, and it does the same thing there. And it still crashes because I did something stupid. But yes, you're right. I still spell const. Yeah, I still spell const. npm start. It should do the same thing. There it is. Server running, and everything should still work. If I go to my thing, there it is, still working. So question to you, what advantage is it for me to create an npm start here? Like, I could have just said no, like, what's the advantage, do you think? Yeah. See, what's going to happen is a lot of Node apps might have something extremely long. Like maybe they're using some kind of flag, blah, 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 some kind of more flag. It could be huge. And when you're downloading a Node app from the internet, you don't know exactly what flags to use. So you just say npm start. And you're done. You're up and running. Okay. All right. On to the next one. How's everyone feeling so far before we get into this? Everyone feeling good? Any questions? Yeah, comments? Okay, so this will be our last little in-class exercise before I give you the lab. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little basic calculator so that when you say local 3000 and you pass in some parameters here, it will display the tax and the total and the subtotal kind of thing. We'll do this one together, and your lab will be very similar to this. Okay. So let us create a new file. Let's close up everything here. So I'm still under the same folder. New file. Let's call it, I don't know, calculate tax.js. Sounds good. All right. So what's the first thing we need? We want connect. So const connect. And how do we use it? What magic word do we say? Require connect. Good. We're also going to use, because we're using amounts, I want that $ accounting package. So I'm going to say const accounting. I'll just use ACC for now because it's shorter. Equals require accounting. Right. Also, I'm going to use one of the core modules, which is the URL. So in week 1, we used one of the core modules called HTTP. Here's another one called URL. So possible midterm question is, what are some of the basic core modules that Node comes with by default? Answer, HTTP, URL, and FS, right? Remember FS when we did the file reading stuff? Okay. So to get connect up and running, just like last time, we said const app equals connect. Then at the very end, we all obviously want to listen to port 3000. So all the code is going to happen between that line and this line. Okay, so let's try this. Based on what we want, notice how it's going to this route here. So we want to define this route calculate tax. If there was no calculate tax here, if it was just route, then obviously we'd say app.use/route. But because we want calculate tax, we have to say calculate tax. So app.use, so if the user goes to calculate tax, then run this function, calculate tax. Capital T just for, obviously I have to define that function. Let's create that function now. I'm going to use the old style method just to throw you off. Function calculate tax. So actually, this is out of my curiosity. This is just a survey on my part. How many of you prefer the old style functions over the new style ESX arrow functions in terms of readability and what's going on? So okay, show of hands, who likes the old function way? Show of hands, who likes the new arrow function way? Yeah. Okay. Feel free to do whichever one you want in your code. In terms of here in class, I'll try to do it both ways just to keep you on your toes. But it is heading toward the ES6, so it's probably better if you know the ES6. But I'll do it both ways. What am I doing here? Okay, so we're going to calculate the tax. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the full query string. For example, what kind of parameters was sent, right? So back in my slide, I want to get this. How do I get this, right? And I could have more than this. I could have subtotal equals 49.99 and or ampersand, tax equals 13. I could have so many here. How do I get all of that? The answer is, that's why we use this URL. So through the URL, we can actually parse it, and it'll come back to us in a nice object. So here we go. Const QS. Maybe I'll just say query string just to make it more obvious. Query string equals, and now here's where we're going to use the URL. URL.parse. Okay, and then I'm going to say, look at the URL that was typed in the browser. How do I say that? I say, look at the request object and look at the URL. There's another parameter here called true. Say true, and then dot query. So if you were to console log right now, this actually, I'm going to say res end. Oh, don't type this in just for curiosity's sake. Let's say res end json.stringify, and I want to know what I just got. Let's try that out. Let's, is this, oh yeah, it's running, right? So let's go to localhost 3000, calculate tax. What was that? Oh, it's running their file. That's right. That's right. Thank you. Where did I go? Right there. So npm nodemon, and I want calculate tax, I think. Right? What did I say? Calculate tax. Yes. Nodemon calculate tax. And it crashed. What happened there? Oops. Throw error. Cannot find module connect. Okay, so I have one extra n there. Try that again. Oh, it restarted almost. Oh, that's right. So let's go to localhost 3000, calculate tax, and let's pass in some parameters like this. Aha. Again, if I added some other parameters like, x equals 2, y equals 9, URL.parse does the hard work for me in putting all of this in a nice object for me to access. Okay. Cool. Okay, so what do we want to do here? We don't want to say JSON stringify. What do we want to send? We want, first of all, we want the amounts. I want to extract all of the amounts that was in that object. So again, query string is an object. So question to you, how do I extract the amount? What can I say? So I can say const amount equals what? You tell me. Query string is an object, as you saw. So how can I get the amount? What was that? Using get? Nope. It's query string dot, and because query string is an object, right? I can say, again, if I said var a equals this object, how do I access this? I say a dot amount. So if I say a dot amount, I get this. If I say a dot x, I get this, right? So that's what we're doing here. We're saying amount equals query string amount. That's one way. However, ES6 comes into play. You may notice this red squiggly line. And so I'm going to introduce you to use something called destructor. It's new in ES6, but it's actually more elegant. And the reason it's more elegant is this. Imagine if I had, if I wanted to extract amount x, y. In the past, before ES6, I would have to say this, something like this. I'd need 3 lines extracted. Check out destructuring. So destructuring is new. Let's go into MDN's page for a second. Let's go to an example that looks similar to what we are doing, which would be around, oh, come on. Yeah, here. Here's a basic object destructuring. So here's your object. Instead of having 2 lines, 1 per variable, you could have 1 line, put the variable names that you want to extract, and pass in the object here. So after this line, I could say console log p, and it'll know 42. That's what we're going to do, just to be current. So instead of this, because we only have 1 parameter, that's basically the answer here. Oh, hold on. Why is it like that? Oh yeah, that's fine. Now, if I had more parameters, I could say amount, comma x, comma y, and I could easily use those values right after this line. So in 1 line, I can get 3 variables. Pretty cool, eh? Okay. So for now, amount, we'll leave it as that. Great, we got the amount. Next thing is you want to calculate tax and total. So how do we do that? Let's say const HST equals, this is stuff you know. Okay. Const total equals now. There's something curious in JavaScript land. If I just said this, it's not going to quite work. You have to actually force it to use to turn into a number. So I'm going to say parse float function, which turns that HST into actual number that I can use. Parse float amount here as well. Otherwise, it might think it's a string or do something weird. Next, we're going to just display the information. We'll say res end. I'm going to use backticks to use the ES6 template literal way because it's going to be, I'm going to use some variables in between. Again, the backtick is the top left character on the keyboard. So I'm just going to say H1 tax calculator. This is the actual HTML. Amount. And this is where the accounting stuff comes in. So I wanted to display the amount, but I want it in a nice $ format kind of thing. So I'm going to use what I downloaded, accounting.format money. That should turn it into a nice $ kind of thing. Add a break tag, just X. Oops, why is that showing there? Okay. HT back format money, HST. And total. Yeah, so up here, if you remember, I chose to be, yeah, right here, aux counts, yeah. In the past, I said the word accounting, but I just chose to use something shorter. And then the last thing, actually, I think that's it. Let's try it out. Let's try it out. So it's because I'm using NodeMon, it automatically refreshed. Let's try amount 22. There. So you might get something like this. Yeah? You got something like this? Yes? Yes. Very good. Okay. And that is all I have for you today. However, let me just, before I get you into your lab 3, so what's going to happen is I'm going to show you how to debug your Node apps real quick. And you can start your lab 3. And because we have time, I'll stay here till about 1:45 to help, and I'll go around to help you if you have questions, okay? Because this is where it starts to get not difficult, but this is the beginning of your Express journey, okay? All right, so what was that? Okay. So quickly to debug apps. Now, I did send in an announcement in Blackboard. Where is that here? Watch how to debug Node in Chrome and VS Code. So I'm just going to show real quick. Let's see. Let's try debugging this. Let me just. What I can do is VS Code actually has a debug thing right here already. So what you could do is say, just click on that, and then click on the start debugging. Now, depending on your, it is started, it is listening. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put it under breakpoint. Let's say, let's stop right here, okay? And well, let's refresh. Now, if I go into calculate tax and refresh the page, refresh, what you should see, which I'm not seeing, is I should have seen some variables here that told me what's inside here, and I'm not sure why it's not showing. Duration, node attached to, I'm going to choose this one, node attached to process. Let's try that. Try it again. Start debugging. Let's see what happens. Okay, I think it's working. Let's try it again. Refresh. Oh. Did not encounter this when I was experimenting with this the other day. Let's try breaking out of this for a second. Node calculate tax. I'll just use regular node. Okay. Not even starting my server. What's up with that? Okay, obviously I'm failing here. So I'm just gonna leave it to you to look at the YouTube videos that I showed you. It was working the other day, and I'm not sure what's happening here. There's 2 ways to debug your node. You could do it within VS Code, or you could do it within Chrome. So let me see if I can do it within Chrome. If I do a Control-Shift-J to get in my console, do I have? I should have seen the node icon right there. Let me see if I could pull that out. Yeah, that guy. This one. Let me just rewind it a bit. Oh, okay, right. Okay, let me just pause that for a second. I think I forgot this. I say node, oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah, node left hash inspect. Okay. I get that. Now if I go into Chrome, refresh, oops, refresh. Ah, there it is. There's my node. That. So now I have another console panel. As you can see, there's not as many tabs as the regular panel, but that's okay. And you could go to sources here, refresh again. And where did my sources tab go? Add it. Oh. Ah, shoot. This is where you would normally see all your variables, and you could actually see the what's inside it. And I'm not sure. Usually, when I refresh, it's supposed to come out, and I'm dying here, so I'm not sure what's happening. Usually you would see all the different variables, and you could inspect them, that kind of thing. So, anyways. The node option, I already clicked it back here, this one. This one here.
I don't have that.
Oh, that's because if you don't have that option, that's because you have to run node with a -- inspect.
I have that.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, we still didn't get that either. It could be what version you're using in Chrome. I have version help about Google Chrome. I have version 64. If you have an older one, because this is relatively new, it just came out in September. Oh, gee. Not sure what's happening there. All I can do right now is just say refer you to the debug links from here, and hopefully you'll get it working. It was working for me today, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, it's not working. I'm not sure why. Yeah. Okay. Any questions before we introduce you to lab number 3? Let me just see here. So under assignments, I basically took Rich Freeman's lab and I just added one little twist to it. So in his assignment, he had 3 parameters, an X value, and a Y value, and an amount value. For my assignment, I took out the amount. Sorry, he didn't have the amount value. He had a method value, where in the method you would say add or subtract or whatever. In my lab, I'm forcing you to use the routes. So you still get to play with the parameters, but you get to also play with the routes. Okay? So the kind of output is like this. So let's say you said localhost 3000/divide, and you pass it in an X and a Y value. The output will look something like this. So 3 divided by 2 equals 1.5. If you had said, instead of divide, if you said add, then it would be 3 plus 2 equals 5. Okay. Also, make it so that if there's some kind of root that doesn't exist, it gives you some kind of error. Okay. That is it for today. Let me just check my notes. If you really are stuck at home and you can't figure this out, if you go to my GitHub account, you'll see some tips under today's notes. So if you go to, what is this? So here's my notes that I'm reading off of whenever I teach, whatever .markdown 01.no. So at the very end, I actually have some tips for you. So lab 3, steps to initialize the project with Connect. So I have some tips in case you're really stuck, but try not to use that. Okay? Cool? Yeah? Was today a good class in terms of information overload? It's not too much, right? Good pace? Yeah? Okay, good. So get started in lab 3. I'll come around if you need me. I'll be here till 1:40-ish, 1:45. Because I have to be somewhere at 2. Okay. Let me stop the recording.